Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're happy to bring you our program called Stay Curious. We're a few minutes uh, past 4 o'clock today, our usual start time, because for the first time we are on YouTube Live. We're on uh, Twitch Live. I got to remember that, as well as Facebook Live, where all of you followers have been so loyal to us at our American Space Museum here in downtown Titusville, Florida. So we've got a program for you today of some space history that includes two astronaut birthdays today. The manned orbiting laboratory that was going to use a Gemini 2 manned module and a mini space station was announced in history on this date. And we're going to talk about the only close-up views of this planet behind me. That is Neptune. Neptune is a blue world. It is a strange world. It is the last official planet of our solar system, though baby boomers like me still count Pluto. But my arms are between here what's called the giant black spot, the dark spot, a cyclone on Neptune that is a lot like the red spot of Jupiter. But we're going to tell you all about Neptune, as this is the only close-up views we've had of it since 1989, when Voyager 2 flew by it at 30,000 miles an hour and took a whole bunch of pictures that are our only true close-ups. But I'm going to show you in a little bit how the Hubble telescope almost is as clear as what some of the pictures from Voyager 2 were in 1989. So we wanted to get started with the reprise. Oh, that's a little bit awkward there, a little bit of humor that I can throw up there on the board. Oh, not there. Well, I wanted to keep that up there and make the board. Y'all get this joke as you look at the planets all the way out to Pluto. Yes, we have get my hands oriented there, the flat Earth there for all you flat earthers out there. But we're pretty sure NASA has proven that the Earth is round. So let's get on with something that we talked about yesterday, but because we had an audio difficulty, it was very hard to understand, and I wanted to repeat this picture that I didn't point out. This is construction of the Vehicle Assembly Building in 1963. They don't even have it halfway up to its height. But on August 24th, which was yesterday, so today they were celebrating their hangovers maybe. 60 years ago, Merritt Island was selected as the choice to launch our rockets to the moon. That rocket was going to be a Saturn V rocket. And then they were going to have a rocket called the Nova that was going to be bigger than the Saturn V, and it was going to go to Mars and beyond. And the Nova launch pads are beyond, they're north of pad 39A and B. That, of course, 39A was used as the moon port. But this is such a big deal 60 years ago when James Webb, the NASA administrator, inked the deal with the Air Force to use the Merritt Island in Air Force Cape Canaveral range as the focal point for our moon missions. In the hunt were the Bahamas. Okay, Marty, my cameraman and co-producer on the other side of all this stuff going on here, he said he would have liked to work in the Bahamas because he was a lunar module electrical engineer for Grumman. That'd been pretty cool, huh, Marty? Living down there in them beautiful beaches. Cumberland, Georgia was considered on the coast there. Brownsville, Texas. Christmas Island was in the running for our moon port, as was Hawaii and White Sands. Now, all of those, White Sands would probably be the worst place you'd want to go, but probably maybe one of the safest because not much around it. But Merritt Island won out, close to the equator, maximizing a little more 1,000 mile per hour rotation of the Earth, get a little more spin off that rocket like a slingshot. So based on national space goals announced by President Kennedy in May 1961, NASA plans called for acquisition of 80,000 acres north and west of the Air Force facility to be administered by the Air Force as an agent for NASA in part of the Atlantic Missile Range. So we didn't see anything in the local papers or news about 60-year anniversary of the beginning of Kennedy Space Center on Merritt Island. The deal was inked 60 years ago this week. And I'm looking at that picture. It's just mesmerizing me, Marty. Look at the crane, those red cranes way up there. And I guess that would be looking towards northeast. Um, and over down here, well, I can't point to directly in the front over there, is the launch control over there. So yeah, a little bit higher. So they're going to get me a pointer, folks. So because my arms are too short. But we wanted to catch up with that. It was a horrible, just a little. We pushed the wrong button, and can't blame anybody. But we wouldn't have bailed out of it had Jessica Galloway not been here, and want to acknowledge who I call our Trekkie Tech. She is doing wonders for our museum, and we can't thank her enough, using her social media talents to reach out more to you. So, well, let's have another event in space history today. We're going to go to some birthdays. All right. Happy birthday, 56th birthday to this man, Drew Foysel. And the next astronaut is Brew Archambault. He's 61 today. And let me go backwards on that again to look at Drew in the cupola here and put on my glasses and tell you a little bit about these two astronauts. He's the third all-time spacewalker, Drew Foysel is. He's 56 today, and he's the lead vocalist and lead guitarist for the all-astronaut band MarQ. So he might be singing Beatles' birthday to himself today. And Foysel was born in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Does that ring a bell with you, Marty? That's where Tom and Mark Usiak are from. Yep, that was Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But he grew up in Lake Ontario, Michigan. All right, still he was born in Lancaster, guys. And we know that both Tom and Mark are watching our Stay Curious program today. He has 2 shuttle flights and an ISS tour of 56 days, 9 spacewalks, tied for third all-time, 225 days in space. Happy birthday, Drew Foysel, 56 years old today. And yes.
Bruce came on to let us know that our YouTube channel, which we're live on right now, also has a VAB video about the Shelter of Giants from the 1960s. So
all right.
Go watch our old content and stay tuned for live.
And you might have picked that up on the microphone from Jessica, but Bruce Jacobs, thank you, Bruce. He is our IT meister of all. He has kept this building afloat with all the IT things. He worked in the shuttle era. We'll get him on this side of the camera one day. But it probably has to be, Bruce, after midnight for him, because we get these emails at 2, 3 in the morning from Bruce that all the time. And we love you to death, Bruce. Thank you for what you've done. Our YouTube channel does rock. There are some really cool videos on there, space history. And with Bruce and Jessica's help, we're going to make it more of a factor in our outreach as our proud nonprofit, the American Space Museum and the U.S. Spacewalk of Fame Foundation, is again using all possible tools to bridge the space between us with our awesome one-of-a-kind space history, because we need to ignite those young people to be space engineers or work in the space industry. They're good jobs, and it's something that our country will desperately need down the road. I guarantee it. So thank you, Bruce, for letting us know we're on YouTube. All right. That's only taken 4 years, Marty, to accomplish. Not 4 years. We've been on here 2 years. Yeah. We're creeping up on our 400th episode. So there's Neptune. I pushed the wrong button to get to tease you there with the Lee Archambault. And don't have Triple T Travis here with me to get this gentleman's proper pronunciation. Archambault, I don't know if you pronounce the T. He was a one-time shuttle pilot that became a commander. Usually you're a pilot twice and then a commander, but he was a one-time shuttle pilot and then a commander. Born in Oak Park, Illinois, grew up in Hillside, Illinois. So you know he's rooting for the White Sox or the Cubbies. Which side of town is, I don't know. I'm ignorant to that. But his nickname's Brew, B-R-U, and it was rooted in bad luck that the bomber rack unit, something about a bomber rack unit, and he got that nickname B-R-U on an F-11 jet. That's the little thing I picked up from him. An Illinois boy all the way, went to Illinois University at Urbana-Champaign, and got all his degrees there. And Lee Joseph Brew Archibald. All right. Happy birthday to him. He's 61 today, and he's involved with the Sierra Nevada's space plane. And someone going to help me with the name of that space plane? It is called the Dream Chaser. Dream Chaser. I'm in my 60s, folks, so I'm entitled for a senior moment every once in a while. All right, but happy birthday to Drew Feutzel, native son of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and our Usiak brothers there, and Brew Archibald, who's a Chicago area native there on Hillside, Illinois. So happy birthday to those guys, and let's get into a little bit of space history that you may or may not know about. It was back in the 1960s when it was spy versus spy going on during the Cold War. We thought that we needed to convert the Gemini spacecraft, shown here, to a long Titan missile that was gutted out and saying, quote, at an August 25th, 1965 White House News press conference, President Johnson said the man orbiting laboratory would bring new knowledge about what man is able to do in space and will enable us to relate that ability to the defense of America. In other words, 2 astronaut spies were going to go in space, and the hardware was being built. The crews were selected, 17 astronauts selected. They wore blue space suits because of the blue colors of the Air Force. This was a separate Air Force program, make no doubt about it. 7 of those mole astronauts transferred in the shuttle program and flew in space, and you know them: Richard Truly, Carol Bobko, Bob Crippen, Gordon Fullerton, Henry Hartsfield, Donald Peterson, and Robert Overmyer. Peterson and Overmyer both passed away, unfortunately, but those astronauts were mole astronauts. And, well, this was 1965, and they worked on it, and as we worked on it, what happened? Well, technology got more into circuitry, computer circuitry and so forth. All of a sudden, the Air Force is being pitched these unmanned satellites that, like the Keyhole satellite, all right, called Big Bird, and other ones that without people could do a lot more spying on our adversaries. And so in 1972, it was decided the mole program would be canceled even before it flew for the first time. And the astronauts that were still wanted to be active were transferred there. So it had from a 1965 to 72 7-year life, billions of dollars spent on it, and it never happened. One of the interesting aspects of this, there we go, is that the Gemini capsule here, okay, the Gemini capsule with 2 people, and believe me, they had a big Gemini plan that could ferry up 4 to 6 astronauts at a time. This Gemini spacecraft had to have in its re-entry shield a hole cut in it. There'd be the hatch to go into the mole, the manned orbiting laboratory. And they actually tested that. The only Gemini to fly in space twice, Gemini 2, and that happened on November 3rd in 1965, I think. And we'll talk about that on Stay Curious one day, because I digress a lot on this space history, because we love space history like this. This is something certainly just the casual space lover might not know about the MOLE program and its significance to NASA. But though we didn't use it, we used some of that technology on unmanned, and definitely that is when the Vandenberg Air Force Base was established for the Air Force to launch spy satellites. Convenient place to do them in a polar orbit. All right, polar orbits, the Earth turns beneath you. When you're going in an orbit around the equator, you have to physically move the spacecraft to go up and down. While in a polar orbit, you can use less vehicle power resources to move it over a certain area of the world that you want, because in another 90 minutes, it's going to go over it. So, love fun talking about the mole. I've seen a mole blue suit. Several of them were found at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base. Some janitor opened a locker. There's these blue spacesuits in there. And the one I've seen is at the Cosmosphere in Kansas, and near where Jessica grew up. She just gave me a big thumbs up. Hutchinsonville, Kansas. That needs to be on your bucket list. It is a fabulous facility. You went there as a kid quite a few times, right?
Field trips almost every year.
Field trips every year. Man, and I went one time, and they had to lock the door behind me, if you can imagine that. There's so much to see at one time. So, and we're talking about the Cosmosphere in Hutchinson, Kansas, where you can see a mole blue spacesuit that astronauts were training in. So, well, let's segue into that to Neptune. And why are we talking about Neptune? Well, because today, on August 25th, 1989, Voyager 2 flew by Neptune. The flyby was only a couple hours, and it was 30,000 miles an hour. And that Voyager 2 spacecraft was launched. We just celebrated that. It was launched this month in 1977 from pad, which was it, Marty? Pad 41. Yeah, pad 41, a Titan 3. Put the Voyager in space. Let me show you the Voyager spacecraft there. Right there's Voyager spacecraft. I'll go back to that other picture in a minute. Voyager 1 was launched in September, and it went to Jupiter and Saturn and went past the moon Titan of Saturn, which meant that it couldn't go past Uranus and Neptune and do the grand tour of the planets, where the alignment of those 4 planets was such that we could use one spacecraft and slingshot to all of them. This is the only close-up view mankind has ever had of this gigantic gas moon. Neptune is classified as a gas giant. Let me back up to this image there to show you one of its moons called Triton. And Neptune, the picture below there of Neptune shows this little dark spot. It's like a gigantic, 3 times the width of the Earth there. Neptune is about 30,000 miles across. The Earth is 8,000 miles across. So it's almost 4 times our diameter, okay? It is the most distant official planet in our solar system at almost 3 billion miles. Pluto, that's over at 4 billion miles and now declassified as a dwarf planet, which I don't like, but it's kind of cool because, hey, you're more unique, Pluto, because you're a dwarf planet. It's in an elliptical orbit. One problem about being a planet, not in the flat plane, its orbit goes above and below the plane. So back in the 70s, Pluto was actually closer to the sun than Neptune was, all right, for about a period of like 20 years or something like that. Neptune takes how many years to orbit the sun? 165 years to orbit the sun. It was discovered in 1486. All right, so that's only 180 years ago, basically, that we've known about Neptune. Now, once Uranus was discovered by William Herschel in like 1780, they noticed that Uranus wasn't exactly where it should be in its orbit, meaning there was something outside that was affecting the orbit, holding it back or speeding it up a little bit. And I can't explain that to you. Trust me, that is the astrophysics that we go to college to study about. We knew this was going on with Uranus, so they suspected there was another planet out there tugging on it. And 2 mathematicians, one in Germany and one in France, did all the math and figured it out. And then the guy in Germany gave his configurations to an astronomer named John Galle, G-A-L-L-E. In the German observatory in Berlin, he turned his telescope and found in 1846 this planet called that they named after the Neptune, god of the seas. Well, they did that because it kind of had a bluish cast, and this is definitely a blue planet, the blue atmosphere. We're not looking at the surface of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. We are looking at a cloud enveloping all of them. And this cloud of Neptune is quite unique. It is very blue, very cold, the coldest in our solar system at 315 degrees below zero. In that dark spot is one of the coldest regions of the solar system. There it is, the spot's up there. The white markings around it are called Scooter. They gave them a little bit of name. Neptune was tipped away from us. We think that Beneath the Neptunian atmosphere lies a planet-wide ocean of water, liquid ammonia, and methane. Even at sea level, the temperature is probably 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, wait a minute, Mark. I just told you it's 315 degrees on the clouds, but that's the clouds. And when you go inside of anything, you have pressure that puts pressure, atmospheric pressure, weight, and heat on it, okay? And so this condensing of this gigantic planet, and Uranus is its twin at about 30,000 miles. They're both about 30,000 miles across. Uranus is the same way. We think there's maybe a gigantic ocean inside and a very small core maybe of compressed things. So compressed that there could be diamonds in the interior of Neptune. Interesting to think about. Now here's a picture above me is the Hubble telescope, our most powerful telescope orbiting the Earth. All right, 30 years in operation, just so far beyond what we thought it would do. And the Webb telescope, once we get it up, hopefully the end of this year, we'll be able to look at Neptune as good as the other picture that you're seeing there from Voyager. All right. But so we've been following Neptune about as good as we can with the Hubble, and it's pretty good as you see that comparison from one of the faraway pictures that Voyager took, not one of the close passes. I wanted to go back one more time. What's my next slide there? Oh, there we go. We got that. I wanted to go back one more time to this picture to show you what are we looking at. We're looking at a giant moon called Triton. This moon is almost the size of Mercury. All right. I think it is bigger than Mercury. It's about 2,500 miles across, twice the size of, a lot bigger than our moon. Our moon's 2,100 miles across. I think this is over 3,000 miles across. I didn't make a note of that. But what we're seeing here, folks, is a cantaloupe surface. All right, that cantaloupe surface right up there has a demarcation line. Well, this cantaloupe surface here's got these dark markings on it. Those dark markings are the shadow of geysers of solid ice spurting out of this moon. And the smooth area, we're sure, is probably an ice layer of like an ocean that's coalesced on top of the surface. But it took us years to figure out from the data from the Hubble and other Earth telescopes that you're looking at those dark markings. Those dark streaks are actually what the remnants of outgassing of ice, maybe sheets of ice from this world. A place that we need to investigate and go back to and learn more about, because why? To help us stay curious, right? So we hope that you've enjoyed our Stay Curious program today. And I've got a hand in the audience there from Jessica. Trekkie, yes, Tech?
5.
Oh, she's going to number 5. Okay. I didn't see her 5 there. Your logo here for $100, we'll put your dog, your cat, your mother. We'll put whatever you want up there because we're a nonprofit and we love taking money and your beautiful tax deductions, okay? And we got some pretty good checks in today, by the way, from some people that always support us. And we're so grateful for that support that we want to brag about you like we do Jessica here in her Trekkie engineer blue outfit there. Science division, okay. Her business hatches dreams into reality, all right? And we are going to create a complete constellation of stars for you. Our own American Space Museum, Stay Curious Zodiac, if you will. And so far, we've had $10,000 in contributions and counting. And starting next week, you're going to see how we're going to construct our first constellation with your support, okay? And it is very important to us because we want to inspire the next generation of space workers. And how better to do that than with the stories and actual histories of the 380 some American astronauts and 580 other astronauts in the history of the world that have gone to space and doing great things. Like, you don't have to go to space, but imagine the pride of being a Voyager 2 engineer that helped that spacecraft go past Neptune here and show us our first pictures of Neptune. So, well, tomorrow we've got another program with some space history. My gosh, there's 3 more astronaut birthdays. That makes about 18% birthdays in the last 2 weeks of astronauts here in Leo, in the cusp of Virgo. And if you didn't see our program yesterday, we had fun talking about one of my, what chokes me up to even talk about astrology, but we had fun with it. And all these Leos and cusp of Virgos being astronauts. It's truly amazing. And by the way, Neil Armstrong was a Leo. So any of you Leos out there. So on behalf of our wonderful museum, Marty and Jessica helping us do this and make a better program for you all. We're happy to be relevant out there in the world where we have some things going on, and we're not going to let them deter us from bridging the space between us. See you tomorrow. I'm Mark Marquette, and come visit us at the American Space Museum.